Hello everyone. This week's reading is Luke 23, the trial and execution of Jesus in Jerusalem. This is endlessly rich literature. The most a short video can do is scratch the surface of one or two themes, which is exactly what I'll do. Before jumping in, I'll just point out a couple things. First, Luke insists that Jesus is innocent of any charges the leaders of the people bring against him. They try to pin sedition on him by saying that he taught against paying tribute to Caesar. But we already saw how Jesus masterfully maneuvered that question by saying, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's." This is not evidence of sedition, although it also seems to indicate that the Jews did understand the hidden message of resisting oppression, because what does not belong to God? Regardless, the leaders try to use this charge to rouse Rome's anger and crucify Jesus. Second, as Justo Gonzalez notes, Luke places the blame for the death of Jesus or of his early followers not on the people of Israel at large, but on their leaders, who fear that Jesus and his movement will both undercut their authority and bring about the wrath of Rome, and on the Roman powers of occupation. The third note then is that the leaders wished Jesus humiliated and dead because of his disturbance of an exploitative status quo. It's when Jesus disrupted the economic activity in the temple that the leaders got real serious about ending him. Much more needs to be said about the trial and execution narrative, but I want to focus now on a main theme, the cross. How has a symbol of grotesque brutality and dominating oppression become a core symbol of the Christian tradition? The cross is such a core symbol because it has come to be associated with salvation. Perhaps one of the most prominent ways of understanding how something like Jesus' cross can enact salvation is that on it, Jesus took our place and absorbed the wrath of God for us. We deserve horrible punishment from God, and God is extremely angry and takes out God's anger on Jesus instead of us, which allows God to calm down enough to have close relationship with us. Something like this is a pretty popular view. The New Testament at places does metaphorically speak of the cross in similar terms, but I think we need to see that kind of language as metaphor to help us see something else. It's hard to hold that Jesus on the cross happened because of God's anger or hatred, because the Bible is clear that it happened out of God's absolutely radical and limitless love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son. But God proves his love for us in that while we still were sinners, Christ died for us. The cross is an absolute proof of absolute love, not hatred. It certainly carries other meanings as well. It surely is meant to also indicate that God indeed takes the ways humans harm each other very seriously, and something must be done about it. This is part of the meaning carried through the metaphorical aspects. The cross is also a way in which the spiral of violence can be stopped. The wisdom and power of God is radically unlike how human culture views wisdom and power. Power is not dominating retribution, but radical forgiveness and even suffering love. Love even for enemies. That's power. But the point I want to emphasize as strongly as possible is how the cross reveals God as a God that knows no lengths to which God will not go in order to restore creation. To restore creation to harmonious relationship with God, the Creator, and with all of creation as universally and infinitely loved beyond imagination. The reason the cross saves is because through it, we come to know ourselves beyond a shadow of a doubt as absolutely and infinitely loved by God, and therefore as ultimately secure in our ultimate being, even beyond our wildest imaginations. When we know ourselves as this loved and this secure in such love, we are freed from thinking we need to protect our ultimate being. We are freed to give ourselves away, which is the very thing that leads to full life. Jesus is both the absolute assurance of our being loved and simultaneously the example of how our own limitless love is the sure path that leads to indestructible life. This is how John 1 states it simply. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. We love because God first loved us. Amen. That's salvation.